Hello, how are you today? I hope you're doing well. I always hope that you're doing well. Every day I say that because every day I mean that. Today we're talking about opt ins and lead magnets and how they work together. Excuse me. Opt-ins are when you ask someone to sign up for a newsletter or a lead magnet or maybe for news about your upcoming book launch. These can be confusing. What's behind the scenes? How do you connect something over here to something over here, which then ends up on your email list? It can be very confusing. Excuse me. Today I'm going to show you how to set up your first or your next opt-in email sequence. This is episode number Marketers on a Mission, episode number 69. The 6 steps. I don't think that's right. Yes, that's right. The 6 steps for a successful opt-in email sequence. Hi, I'm Patricia Durgan, the Christian Message Coach, and this is Marketers on a Mission, the live show to help writers and speakers further develop their online marketing skills. So, excuse me, I had a tickle yesterday, and I've got a little bit of one today as well, so just forgive me. Let's go here. And I want to do the magic share screen. Let's see the magic share screen. All right. So in the old days, of the internet, which is 10, 15, 16 years ago, people would, let's go back up just a tiny little bit more. Initially, when blogs were, the internet was invented, I'll leave that and won't say what I want to say about that. And people created blogs. Then they started to get readers, and it was just a fascinating world that no one had envisioned, or very few people had envisioned. So once somebody started saying, hey, if I put content out consistently, there's going to be people who come in and look at it. So in the first few years, there were so few people online, in that larger scope, there were so even fewer, a smaller number who were doing anything effective or for other people. Most of the people online in those early years were just, kicking around some ideas and talking about whatever they wanted to talk about. And there really wasn't any strategy or purpose behind it. And sometimes that's still the case today. But in the old days, once they finally realized, if I ask them or give them an offer to sign up for a newsletter to stay in touch with me regularly, some people are going to do that. It was a revelation. But, excuse me, we still have, even now, all these years later, over 15 years later, we still have some opt-ins that look like this. This is a current email newsletter. It's pitiful. It's just pitiful. This is an opt-in box. It's visually uninteresting. It says it's an email newsletter, which just by definition sounds boring, doesn't it? Now, a long time ago, that was very exciting because, again, there were so few people online that, we gobbled up content. Now we're drowning in content. So we are more conservative with how many opt-ins we sign up for, how many people or businesses or organizations or ministries that we share our email with. We just, everybody's email box is overflowing. Inbox is overflowing, right? Excuse me. Now, there's several different problems. We've mentioned 2 of them. The third one is there's no measurable, specific results promised. They do promise you that you're going to get an email newsletter. Woohoo! What else are you going to get? How is your life going to change? And in your case, how is our reader's life going to change in some small way, specifically because they did or did not sign up for what we're offering? So we're going to look at a few different types of opt-ins. Excuse me, I apologize. I must be catching something. Let's see. Let me double check. I always have to make sure that I'm online because, there are some glitches sometimes. And it's a shame that they're right at the beginning of the show when it's so important to connect with you. And here I am looking off, but I have no option. There's no other way for it to work. So until technology becomes more sophisticated, this is the method that works. Now, one thing I want to note here is that this is an opt-in box. This is an example, this email newsletter, this black box area. That is an opt-in box, but it's not a lead magnet. because there's no promised results. Let's go to the next page. Look at this. Here is a great lead magnet. This is an opt-in. It has a lead magnet. This is only an opt-in, but it's not a lead magnet because it doesn't meet the criteria of a lead magnet. This person is offering an email newsletter, but what people want is not more information. They want a transformation of some kind. They don't expect you to transfer their entire life with a 3-page PDF. And if they do, I'm saying that those expectations are just a little bit unrealistic. But what do we say all the time? A lead magnet, which is also called a free resource or, excuse me, an ethical bribe, answers a single question or it solves a single problem. So we're going to look at a few, and then tomorrow we're going to look at more examples. Today, we're touching on the examples long enough to get you into the sequence that I want to show you, the step-by-step email sequence that goes on behind the scenes so you can see, I'm running ahead of myself. Tomorrow, part of our lesson, our episode will be, excuse me, actually looking at several different options and saying, hey, I really like that one. I don't care that much for this one, and so forth. So this one, going back to this one here, this is visually interesting. Check. It is specific and measurable results. Yes. Excuse me. Now, he doesn't tell me that I'm going to get 25,000 visitors next month. He is going to tell me the secret as he got 25,000 visitors a month. But it's a secret, which means it's a shortcut, which means it saves me steps, potentially. If what he suggests me that I do in this lead magnet works for me, if I embrace it and apply it, and it works, it's successful, my readership is going to go up. And that's what I want. I'm not really, as an individual person scouring the internet, I'm not actually expecting to go from 7, let's say our number was ridiculously low for our email list. Let's say we have 7 followers on our email list, 7 names. I'm not expecting in January, at the end of January, that if I have 7, that at the end of February, I'm going to have 25,000. He's giving me a method. He's broadening my horizons. I used that phrase yesterday. He's showing me that there are steps that I can take, strategic steps or tools that I can use so that I can grow my email list. So, and I'm really, really sure that this is not only visually interesting, which is obvious, but I'm really sure that this is these color choices coordinate with and or stand out from the color choices of his website. And he's giving me not 25,000 readers next month. He's giving me a shortcut without saying that, without using that word at all. He's giving me a shortcut to, or the promise of a shortcut, let's put it that way, to gain more readers. And this is something that I want to talk about. He's not titled this in some way that's cute or trying to be, mysterious, because some people do that. They don't know, and they think that if they use their own language, they have a special, I don't mean like Klingon, or something crazier than Klingon. I mean that some people have a tendency to be so cute that they're vague. And it's a very short step. We want clarity. Our readers want clarity. We want to talk to them about something that they want. We want to offer them something with specific measurable results that they want. Not, would you like to buy my book, or would you like to have an excerpt of my book, or would you, there's the people who love you already, that's compelling. But we're looking for people who are total strangers who fell upon our website or checked out our social media or heard us or someone else mention us on the internet in some way, a podcast, a reference, a testimonial, numerous ways that can happen. We want them to come to our website, and amongst the first things that they see, we want to give them, boom, something that's great, and it's a powerful result, a promise that they can get if you do this, which means is that lead magnet. Do you want them to read that lead magnet? Do you want them to apply that? Is it a list of tools? Is it a list of exercises? Is it recipes? Is it instructions on how to choose sound-wise eating make sound-wise eating choices? Is it how to get your children to eat vegetables? Is it how to retire in 3 years. What is it that amongst all the things that you know, what's a tiny piece, a nugget? Build that into what is called a lead magnet or a free resource or an ethical bribe. So let's look here. Here are 2 examples. Look at the difference. Now, both of these are opt-ins because they both require, in order for them to work and to process, they both require someone's name and email. You don't ever have to require a name, but it's good to, so that you can be personable with them when you're sending out an email. But both of these are not a lead magnet because this one on the left-hand corner is only an opt-in. Subscribe to our free weekly newsletter. This is a different version of one that we've seen earlier, different type. No promise. Really not very much information. And this flew, this is the most used opt-in for nearly a decade, and it was very, very, very successful. It's no longer successful to the degree that it could be if you or I would simply add a promise and have a compelling headline. Subscribe to our free weekly newsletter is by no means a compelling headline. Look at this man's. Yours free. The top 19 essential WordPress plugins to supercharge your website. And there's a hint down here if you can see it. 11 of the best are free. Okay. Now, there's 2 camps of people who are going to see this. There are 2 camps of people who see everything that you do. People who are interested instantly because of your ability to communicate what you do, who you do it for, what the results are that your audience gets, or people, and they want those results, and people who do not want those results. They don't care about that topic. They're not interested in losing 5 pounds. They're satisfied with their dietary choices. They've already retired and they're, multimillionaire. Any number of different reasons. Today's Monday. There's so many different reasons why someone might not be interested in what you're doing. And this is one of the things that I run into time after time through the years, that people who are just coming online. Now, my viewers have already been online, but time after time, people who come, I see posts that people who are just coming online are so fearful. I hate to say that word that way, but they're so fearful that if they don't spread out and welcome everyone in the world and offer everything that could be offered, then they're not going to get any readers. There's not going to be any momentum built. They're not going to get a single email address, when actually that is untrue. It's actually the opposite. We want to be specific. If we serve people who are over 6 feet tall and in the military and have 3 children or more, if that's a viable target market, I have no idea if it is. Let's pretend that it is. If we serve that group of people and their spouses and their family, they will flock to us. Because we have just identified, of the 7+ billion people in the world, I'm somebody who can help you. I may not be able to help your mama or your cousin or your neighbor, but I can help you. This is what people want. They want specificity. They want promises. They don't expect the moon, but you do want to go a little bit on the other, above board when you suggest, here's something that I'm offering. And it's not a boring newsletter. It's unmeasurable, a product, a PDF, a video series, fill in the blank, whatever it is, excuse me, and here's what you're going to get. Now, one other thing I want to mention here before we go to the next slide is that a lot of times I'm asked this question, and it's a reasonable question. How can I make a promise? I don't know if the person on the other end who receives the product, the service, the lead magnet, I don't know if they're going to do the things that I suggest in that lead magnet, that blog post, that online course. I don't know. I can't control what they're going to do. So how can I make great promise that really hits home and compels them to give me their email address or purchase my online course or buy my book? Now, that is a reasonable question, but let me assure you, you're not responsible for what other people do. You create your promise, your headline, as if they're going to do the things that you suggest, okay? So you want to be concerned about them, but you also can't shape everything in your message based upon the stragglers who may not even get out of bed the next day, much less even open your email and do what's included, the steps included in your PDF, your lead magnet. So when you're creating these compelling headlines and when you're making these promises, and we can talk about this another time too, because we're not finished with this. This is an ongoing conversation about so many different, and most things in online marketing are. There's nothing that's hardly anything, let me back up, hardly anything that's just a conclusive, oh, there's the last step, now you're finished. Ooh. No. So when you're thinking about what could I say, what could I promise? Assume when you're making that promise, and yes, I know what people say about the word assume, but take for granted, be confident in that the people Christ is going to send to you for this free resource, for your online course, for your blog, for your book. Take for granted, depend upon Him to send those people who you are uniquely gifted to serve. They are hungry for your message delivered by you. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that gorgeous? Isn't that wonderful? There are a specific group of people who are hungry for what you uniquely deliver. Maybe the topic isn't unique, but your delivery method, your sense of humor, all the things that make you unique, your approach to teaching, could be a million things, options there to choose from. But they want it from you. So when you're thinking about these things and developing your promise, go the extra mile. Take the leap of faith that the people who are going to look at that and get that, sign up for that, purchase that, whatever it is the action is that you're asking them to do, that they are indeed going to go the full mile. You'll be able to make a lot more great headlines and have a lot more peace. It's not up to you to find your audience. It's up to you to be prepared for them when Christ brings them or sends them. Okay? Just like always, in real life or online. So if you want to find out more about this particular topic and see some good and bad examples, you can Google opt-in form images here. And then when you get there, choose images itself. Opt-in form examples is what you would Google. And then once that pulls up, instead of all or all the other choices, these tabs, choose the image tab. Okay? Now let's get to the good stuff. While we're doing that, you look at that. I'm going to check and see if we have any responses. Yes, we do. We have a few responses. And then once that pulls up, instead of all or the other choices, these tabs, let me turn this down a little bit. I apologize. Oh, I'm so glad this is a good topic for you, Janice, and I think that this is going to be really helpful, and I hope so. And if it's not, I need to know because I need it to be helpful. So if it's not, please, anybody, live or replay, let me know. That did not make sense to me. I need to know that because it needs to make sense. And the burden is on me to make this very complex process as simple as possible to understand. All right. Hi, Bob. Thanks very much for joining us. All right. So what happens? These are color-coded, as you can plainly see. Each of these different colors is a standalone, meaning that the source is different or the process is different. But the opt-in form can be anywhere. You can put it on your social media links, on your website homepage, the right-hand column. Most people have a sidebar on their website. It's on the right-hand side. It's not right or wrong. It can be on the left-hand side as well. But if you have a sidebar, you can put your opt-in form in that sidebar. You can include it on social media. If you'd like me to show you some examples of that in another episode, I'll be glad to do that, how other people are doing that. So the very first thing that happens is a standalone. The reader comes and sees you, stumbles upon you, is driven to your site, connects with you online, already knows you and loves you, trusts you. Those people come and you've made it available to them. We're going to show you some actual opt-in forms. These are actual opt-in forms, but we're going to show you many more examples, and we're going to talk about a little bit about it tomorrow. The opt-in form itself can be anywhere, and it can even be hosted by your email provider. So let's say, for example, Aweber is your email provider. That's the company. It's called an email provider or an email platform. That means that that's a third-party tool or company that you use to. Oh, I'm so glad, Janice. I'm so glad that the sequence looks very helpful. Praise God. Praise God. You can ask Aweber and the other MailChimp, Constant Contact, Inversionsoft, so forth. you can ask them to host. Now, I'm not a specialist in all of those, but you can, it's very likely that 100% of them offer this feature. You can ask them to host your opt-in form. Why would you do that? Well, you wouldn't usually want to do that, but if you don't yet have a website, or for some reason something's glitchy, or maybe you're going to a conference and for some reason it's not impossible to do this and you need to go another method, put this opt-in, ask them to host it. It's a temporary or permanent hosting. So they sign up. As soon as they sign up, what happens? They fill in their name if you've asked for it. They filled in their email address, which nothing's going to work without the email address. And what happens? Oh, behind the scenes, you have already created, the email platform itself has already created a confirmation email. And you've gotten a bazillion of these. So you put in your email address in the special box, and what happens immediately? Boom, in your email. There is a note asking you to please confirm. You'd really like to have this information. Different companies and individuals word it differently, but that's what they're asking. This is called double opt-in. The first opt-in was on stage number 1. The second opt-in, the second opt-in is when they receive the email on stage number 2, step number 2, and they respond to it by clicking on the link. That's the double opt-in. So if you've ever heard that term, or you're going to hear it, upcoming this year, you're going to know what that means. If it's a single opt-in, then they or anybody else puts an email address in the box. That means that I could theoretically sign you up for a bunch of crazy opt-ins. If those companies, people, organizations don't have double opt-in. But with a double opt-in, which is what Aweber uses, and you can choose on most of the email providers, you can choose whether you use the double or the single opt-in. And it's another step for the person who's just signed up, because they have to go and read the email, and then they have to click the link. And if they don't, they're not officially been added to your list. So what is the benefit of that? That sounds like that's slowing down the process. Exactly. Typically, we don't want to slow down the process of someone signing up, but here's the benefit of it. The people who have actually taken 2 actions, they have filled in their email address in the first box on step number 1, and then when they were asked, is this really you? On step number 2, is this really you? And do you really want this? Because we want you to have it, but before you get it, you need to, step number 3, click the link. And as soon as they do that, now they have just taken 2 actions to ask for your free resource or to make a purchase or whatever the case may be. Then they go to step number 4. Now let's look here. Do you see these little arrows? Steps number 4 and step number 5 are happening in the same time frame. They don't have to happen at the same moment, but really close to the same time frame. The welcome email is a standalone email series. I've put 3 here. You can use 5. Most people don't use very many. You want more than 1 and less than 5 or less. All right. Now, years ago, until recently, maybe the last 3 years, nobody did this. But when leaders in the field start doing something interesting and it seems to be working and it helps them serve their clients or helps them gather more email addresses or it helps them make more money, make more sales, then other people who are like me, who are observers, we pick up on what's happening. Excuse me. We make a choice whether we're going to adopt that for ourselves or not. Excuse me. So the welcome email list is a standalone email list that is separate, has theoretically nothing to do with this email list. Okay? It is a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 emails that are just welcoming somebody. That you've seen these in your own inbox. Go and sign up for something that you are mildly interested in or very interested in, and see if they just deliver you an email and says, bada bing, bada boom, here's your lead magnet, thanks very much, see you later. Or if they send you something with your lead magnet, the link to your lead magnet, which is this step number 5, as well as another set of emails directly related to getting to know you. A welcome email series is, thank you very much for signing up, but it's much more personable than that, because you can say that over here in step number 5. A welcome is, just present yourself and your philosophy, your mission, and how you know that it is connected to them and their mission. And you wouldn't say it with those words. You show it. You show it with your words and your approach. You're very personable. You're very you're welcoming them into your space. We want people to stay when they sign up. It's very possible that people are not going to ever look at your PDF, your free resource. They forget, life gets busy, they fell asleep, the dog ate the child. There's a bazillion reasons why. And we've all had that happen to us as well. So the welcome is another way for you to solidify that very fragile, at this time, it's a very fragile relationship. You can say something about yourself and ask them something about themselves. Vice versa, it's better even to start off talking about them. This is what I know about you. You wouldn't make a checklist. That's not personable at all. You would figure out how you want to shape what it is you want to put in this email. They don't have to be long at all, preferably short. A welcome email series is not only short in how many are in the sequence, but also in the content, the body of the email itself. All right, let's see if we have. Bob and I are now at step number 4. Woo! Now we have to work on lead magnets, which I now understand thanks to you. Praise God. Praise God. Woo! Having this in place opens doors and possibilities that could never be opened any other way. And the best part of it is, once someone's on your email list, unless something happens that they become dissatisfied, or you drop the ball, you being anybody, drop the ball and stop sending out emails, there's no reason to think that they're not going to stick with you for a long time. Excuse me. Now, we're not going to talk about it today, but periodically you need to purge your email list. If you have people who have not responded, not even opened your email list in a year, 3 years, whatever your time frame is, then you need to remove them from your email list. And every email provider offers a way to do that. And why would that even matter? Because in an email provider email platform, Aweber, MailChimp, Constant Contact, Infusionsoft, ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, you're charged by the number of names on your email list. So if you got a lot of duds, and I don't mean that they're dud people, but they're duds to you in the sense that they did sign up at one time, but they're not still active. Perhaps they're not still interested. There's a way to go about contacting them, a simple email, and we'll talk about that another time. You'd send an email out. The gist of it is you'd send an email out and, contact them. Hey, what's going on? Hadn't heard from you in a long time. Haven't noticed you, blah, 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 blah. We'll talk about it some other episode. Here's an opportunity to stay connected to us. They would click the link and stay connected, or they would not click the link, and then you don't have to pay for that name. And that's good, because if they're not active, they're not really a follower, are they? Next, we go to step number 5, which runs concurrently, as I said. But there's this step number 4, this welcome email list. It has a lifespan and it's finished. Every new person that signs up for your email, your newsletter, if you have one, your weekly devotional, the wait list for a book that's going to launch, anybody that signs up, they would get this, because it's generic enough that it can, of course you can specify this, but if it's generic enough that it will fall over the bulk of the people, be appropriate, fit, connect you with the bulk of the people who sign up for anything that you have, whatever it is that you're offering, product, a service, a book, an online course. But it's not so specific to this, each particular product, that you have to have, 75 emails, welcome emails, to go along with 75 email lists, one for this product, one for that book, one for that course, one for that free resource. That'd make you crazy in a heartbeat. So I digressed there for just a minute. Let's go and talk about step number 5. It is always ongoing. This is every week, every other week, something like that. You want to, just like a blog post series, you want to stay in touch with your readers. Now, the content that you might use for that, we talked about yesterday in episode number 66. No, 68. Pardon me. The reader, what happens? They sign up, and each email list is specific to a particular book. Now, it could be a list, and I do say that here, but it also could be a tag. It may be that your email provider allows you to tag people according to which opt-in form they signed up via, or it may be a list. That's up to you and your email provider and how they operate. So they receive that. Now, they've done all these other things. Every single one of these things has occurred, okay? They've gone through step 1, 2, 3, 4, and now they're on step number 5. They're not aware of that. They have no idea. All they know is they just got an email over here. They signed in. You ask them, you send them an email immediately, and you ask them, oh, you really want this? Is this really you? And they responded and said, clicked on the link and said, yes, that's me. And they started getting this short email series that might last a week, over the course of a week or a course of 2 weeks. We don't want to aggravate people. People who, online marketers who are aggressive online marketers, they'll give it to you, like in a couple of hours. But I'm not running a race. If you're going to try to push me down the road, you're losing me. But we control how often these emails, each email we ever send out, how often they are published. So a span of time that works for you, a sequence that works for you and your daily duties, as well as doesn't spread out so far in between posts or emails that you lose their interest. There's a fine line. Christ will help you find it. And this is like every single thing online. You practice. You try it. It worked. You keep doing it. It didn't work as great as I thought it would. Okay, well, let's back up and regroup and let's try it a different way with a different time span. All right, so where are we? Oh, yes. So then after their step 5 and they've gotten the specific email that you promised with the link to the free resource that you promised over here in step number 1. You said, I'm going to give you this great resource. You don't call it that. You have a specific, it's a checklist. It's a book excerpt. It's a video series. You've promised them something to get them to act. Now, this is where you deliver that. The very first email in this series, step number 5, you send them the link to it. It's already stored somewhere online, and this email includes, thank you for signing up, and here's the link to your promised resource. And there's more to it than that, but that's the short and the sweet of it. Or you can say, here is, thanks for signing up. Here's the link on my webpage to go here and find the free resource that I promised you. So wherever it is that you have it stored, whatever your strategy is, you can have it very simple or very complex. And at the very beginning, we try to keep things as simple as possible because a lot of times with online marketing processes, the process itself seems convoluted, many steps, there's a learning curve, and the next thing you know, your head is spinning. And then you just put it down because I can't understand that. So let's do it simple first. Now you would have already set up, see this box down here, you would have already set up behind the scenes before you even started this opt-in, before you even made this opt-in form available, you would have created this, what is called an autoresponder email series. That means that you would have gone behind the scenes into your email platform, your email provider, Aweber, Constant Contact, and so forth, and you would have created a set of emails similar to the welcome emails. They just are there. You've created them. You've decided what sequence number 1 is going to go first, number 2, which one and what content and what time frame you want number 1 to be released. So you're not sitting there on step number 4 or 5 or 6. You're not sitting there posting on Monday morning at 8:15 trying to create an email to go out by 8:30 that morning. There are times that would happen, but they're rare. So take comfort. Take comfort. You create this whole sequence or the bulk of the sequence before the whole process even begins. You set it up. Then you tell your email provider, I want this email to go out first, and I want it to go out immediately after. They ask you all these questions. You have lots of choices. They'll ask you, there's drop downs and all kinds of parameters according to which email provider you're using. And they'll ask you, they'll say, do you want this to go out immediately, or you want it to go out in an hour from when the person signed up? Or you want it to go out in a week from when they signed up? And so forth. And each email, you'll be given those options. And you'll just answer the questions. There's a bunch of drop downs. You'll just answer those questions and you'll set it up. So the welcome email will go out immediately after, let's say, pretend. we're going to send out the first welcome email immediately after they sign up on step number 1. Also, the first email on step number 5, which actually is going to deliver either the promised resource or the link somewhere else to the promised resource that you have stored elsewhere. So you could potentially be sending out 2 emails at the same moment. You decide that. You could give out the resource, this one on step number 5. You could give that one out immediately, which is the better option. If you have to choose between only one multiples or only one, send out the free resource link that you promised. Then you can send the email, the welcome email series, set that to begin 4 hours later or the next day. But you don't want to send out a welcome series 3.5 months after they've signed up. Remember, the welcome series is to help them feel that you are truly welcoming them into your online space. You want to be their resource. You want to support them. You're glad that they're there. They're a valuable member, that even though they just joined, they're a valuable member, and you appreciate the fact that they gave you the nod to trust you enough to ask for the free resource that you're promising. So these are the initial steps here. And then on step number 6, this is just an ongoing sequence. You can create it as an autoresponder, which means it just responds automatically when a certain trigger is hit. That's exactly how the welcome email series works. That's exactly how this initial email series works. But you can drop that off if you want to, or keep it going. So if you can do it either way. Again, there's a step number 7, but I didn't list it because it's the less normal. And that is when you have a book launch, it's not going to be in your autoresponder series, because you don't want people in let's say, let me back up. Your book is going to launch next week, and you want to send out a special email. Of course, you would do this, campaign-wise, marketing-wise. You wouldn't be waiting till the last minute to do this, but we're just pretending here. So you wanted to send out an email saying, our book launch is next week. All right, so whatever else you want to tell them, that's time sensitive, isn't it? You're going to ask them to take some kind of an action. You might want them to buy the book on Amazon. You might want them to pray for you. You might want them to go to a book signing, any number of different things. However, you don't want that in your autoresponder series. That's a standalone email. I didn't include it here because this is specifically for the first part. Step number 7 would be those special times when you want to send out a particular notice that's time sensitive. In some way it's new and fresh, and it wouldn't be applicable to people who sign up in December or next year or 3 years from now. Okay? So that's a standalone email. But there are ways to tie that together to your regular series. So don't let me confuse you by saying that there's another element to it, because it's just an ongoing relationship with the people who have granted you the privilege of offering them something of value. You're giving them something of value that they want, that's going to answer a question, solve a problem, and is going to give them a measurable, specific response after they've received it and applied it. We don't know if they're going to apply it, but if they do, we're working toward that assumption. If they do, they're going to get this measurable result, okay? And you're giving them something of value, and they are giving you something of intense value, their email address. So, any questions we have? Let's just check and see really quickly. Yes, we're good. Okay, just checking. So, this has been episode number 69, the 6 steps of a successful opt-in email sequence. Tomorrow is Q&A Friday, baby. And I'm going to start by showing you several examples of successful opt-in offers. And remember that they also might be called a lead magnet, free resource, an ethical bribe. Creating the lead magnet and creating this email sequence, opt-in email sequence, there are 2 sides of the same coin. So you have to have all this done before anything starts, before that magic box pops up online. All these steps need to be in place. I can help you do that. I can help you. I can be a consultant. I can do it for you. We can work something out hourly, or it can be a project-based purchase. Email me, contact me somehow if you'd like to know more about that. But and you can also look back at other videos, other episodes that we've done, and those we'll do in the future. Because there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to cover, and we're going to be here 5 days a week. Speaking of which, I'll see you right here tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for that lead magnet examples. Until then, I'm Patricia Durgan, the Christian Message Coach, and I pray this show helps you spread the good news online. Thanks for being here.